Hi, I'm Catherine Bird, and I am a Chinese energetic medicine practitioner and Qigong instructor. And I train and mentor healers and other kinds of practitioners. And I started studying Chinese medicine and Qigong because I wanted to be a better practitioner. I wanted to take care of my health and vitality and my energy in a better way so that I could be in integrity in my practice. And I want to chat with you today about adrenal fatigue, and especially in relationship to the menopausal body, but for everyone who's experiencing what they might consider fatigue, burnout, and feeling like you're having a multitude of symptoms that you're having a hard time figuring out. And what I want to do is share a little bit from the Western and the Eastern perspectives so that you can see how to bring your body into balance. I'm not a doctor, so if you are thinking about taking any of the herbs that I am sharing about today, please reach out to your doctor, especially if you are taking any medications. So let's get right into it. So what is adrenal fatigue and why does it matter? Well, the adrenals are glands that are sitting on top of the kidneys. So they're like little hats on top of the kidneys, which are at your low back, just kind of at where the rib cage and the spine come together. And these two kidneys and two adrenal glands are, of course, very closely linked. They're very much attached to each other, and so they're related. And we're going to talk more about their relationship later. But basically, long-term stress burns out the adrenal glands, which is why we use this word burnout, because it is burnt. It is when you feel a lot of fatigue and exhaustion and other symptoms, and you're just like, I just cannot do this anymore. So some of the symptoms that Western medicine will attribute to adrenal fatigue are, well, fatigue, burnout, difficulty with waking up in the morning, feeling really groggy in the morning, difficulty with stressful situations, things that maybe didn't stress you out so much before now feel really overwhelming, immune system issues, hair loss, memory issues, body aches, weight loss or gain around your belly, and low blood pressure, which is like dizziness and lightheadedness. And we're going to talk about more symptoms later that you might be having that you didn't know might be connected to this. So the basics of this is that the adrenals produce the hormones that respond to stress. And the one that most people talk about is cortisol, because this is our primary stress hormone. And the adrenal gland is going to produce this anytime that you are experiencing stress in your life. And not all stress is bad. We need to have a certain level of stress. That's fine. But when you are chronically overstressed, your adrenals are going to be constantly putting out a lot of cortisol into your body. And that's going to affect other systems of your body as well. The other thing that the adrenal glands produce are aldosterone. So aldosterone. It's aldosterone. So this actually helps the body to retain sodium and doesn't allow the sodium to just get flushed out of the body. And we know that sodium is a key piece of pretty much every function of the body needs sodium in order to do its thing. So we need this retention in the body, and you can see how because of this, if the adrenals are fatigued and they're not producing enough of this, that you will have other symptoms in your body that you might not think are attached to this issue. And then also the adrenals can actually help with sex hormones. But if the adrenals are fatigued, then they're not going to be doing that. And that is going to make menopause worse. And on the flip side of that, the stress of menopause actually stresses the adrenals. So they have a little bit of this feedback loop where if your adrenals are stressed, it's going to make the menopausal symptoms worse because they're not contributing to hormone production. And then also your menopausal symptoms are stressing the body, waking up in the night, just the stress of the hormone changes in and of themselves is going to stress the adrenals. And this is why for a lot of people who are going through menopause, it seems like they're kind of on a very cyclical path and finding it hard to get off of that path. So what does it look like when you're having these issues? Well, you know, from the Western perspective, they will usually talk about the symptoms being fatigue and exhaustion, hair loss, memory loss, sort of confusion in your mind, having difficulty with waking up in the morning, feeling very groggy, difficulty with stressful situations, and maybe stress that was feeling very normal to you before now feels very overwhelming. Body aches and pains, weight loss, like sudden weight loss, or weight gain, especially around the middle, around the belly, and also low blood pressure, which would contribute to dizziness and lightheadedness. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the other symptoms that a lot of times Western medicine doesn't think about that are from the Chinese medical perspective in a minute. But I want to talk about what do we do to create this in our lives? Well, being chronically stressed, of course. Now, one of the issues here is that we often don't even realize that we're chronically stressed because we've normalized it. We've normalized hustle culture. We've normalized boss babe, have it all, do it all, be the person that everybody's counting on for everything all the time. Our nuclear families are very unsupportive of us. We normalize habits and ways of being through food and sleep that are very stressful. So when you think about your life and if you're stressed, consider that you might be more stressed than you think you are. The other thing is that you might have a hyperactive nervous system, and this can be your entire life. You've had a hyperactive nervous system from trauma, from early childhood experiences and neglect, and where your nervous system gets ramped up really easily. And this can look and feel like what you might think of as fight or flight. Your blood pressure going up and your heart beating fast and your breath becoming shallow and feeling this high level of stress and anxiety, panic attack. It can also feel like really descending down into not wanting to move, being checked out, dissociation. This is when the nervous system has become accustomed to being overloaded and then just shuts itself down to protect you. So in another way, it might not look how you think it should. And your experience of chronic stress or nervous system dysregulation might not be what you think that it should be. And we also have to acknowledge that a lot of times in our childhood, we weren't allowed to rest. We weren't encouraged to be still and quiet and taking care of ourselves and taking time off and doing nothing. And so it's really important to look at from your childhood on, what have you taken on about rest and about nurturing and taking care of yourself, getting your needs met, asking for your needs to be met. All of these things are the lessons of adrenal fatigue. And so you can't just, I think, do what we often do in Western society, which is, oh, I'm having a health issue, so I'm going to take a pill. What we need to do is look holistically at our entire life and how did we create this for ourselves, and how are we going to pull out of that? And usually that has a lot to do with things like nervous system repair, with trauma release, and with changing beliefs, patterns, and habits in our life. The other ways that we create adrenal fatigue is through lack of nutrition. There's not enough minerals and nutrition in our soil. Our soil is very depleted, so our food is very depleted. And we also have become accustomed to eating out and eating processed and packaged foods and not eating a whole colorful rainbow of vegetables very often. We sort of stick to things that we like and that's it. We also don't drink enough water, we're not hydrated, and we have a tendency to over-exercise sometimes and over-push the body and do a lot of high-intensity workouts. And one of the things that I see happen is that as especially people with female bodies, as they age and they start to get just a little chubby around the middle, the decision is, oh, I need to get more cardio and I need to push myself and I'm being lazy, I'm being fat, and I need to push harder, harder, harder. And instead of that actually having the effect that we're looking for of losing weight, it can even have the opposite effect because the stress of the body is so much. And so the imbalance inside doesn't respond the way it did when you were 20 to this kind of stress. It's wanting something different. Also, lack of sleep. And when we're not sleeping at night, especially in the middle of the night, between 11 to 1, like those hours in there in the middle of the night, that's when we replenish our yin energy, and this is associated with the kidneys, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And we're not replenishing ourselves through sleep. So we also know now that women's bodies need more sleep. We need like 2 hours more sleep than men. But generally, we're not getting more sleep, often getting less sleep. So this is a big piece that over time you're going to see the effects of. So as we look at this from the Chinese medical perspective, generally we're looking at balance when we look from this perspective, instead of from the Western perspective, which looks at a cluster of symptoms and then seeks to address all of these symptoms. From this perspective, we're really looking at what's going on in the body holistically and how do we bring the body into greater balance so that it can do its natural thing of being healthy. So with this imbalance of the adrenals, one of the things that's happening is that this is an imbalance in the body of the fire and the water. And I'm going to attempt to explain this in a very simplified way, and hopefully you can follow along with this if you've never been exposed to these kinds of teachings. Then you might be like, well, I'm not really sure, but bear with me here. So there is fire and there is water. And the organs, there's 5 elements, and the organs are assigned associations with those elements. And today we're going to talk about fire and water. And the fire is associated with the heart, and water is associated with the kidneys. And remember that the kidneys are where the adrenal glands rest. And the fire of the heart is hot, and the water of the kidneys is cold. And in the body, in balance, and this is an energetic thinking, so you have to kind of use your imagination. The fire is pushed down from the heart and down into the lower parts of the body, and it warms up those cold kidneys, which helps to allow the kidneys to fully eliminate. It just warms them up enough to allow them to fully eliminate and remove toxins from the body. And the kidneys are then have this healthy fluid, which moves up through the pathways of the body. And this can be seen as a kidney yang energy that's moving through the fluids, moving through the blood. But it's moving up through the pathways of the body, this healthy fluid, and it comes up and it comes into the lungs and it moisturizes the lungs. And the lungs can dry out from the heat of the fire because the lungs are around the fire element of the heart. But when that moisture of the lungs is cooling this part of the body, which is around the fire, and because the lungs surround the heart, pushes the fire down. So you can see there's energy moving up and energy moving down, and there's healthy movement in the system. And when there's healthy movement, there's flow. And a lot of times you'll hear me talk about balance, but in one teacher I worked with said there is no such thing as balance where everything is equal. What you're looking for is flow. You're looking for the energy, the fluids, everything to be in flow. And so this is what's happening in the body. Now, when this is in imbalance, the fire does what it naturally does, which is moves up. It doesn't have anything pushing it down to help it to warm the kidneys. It just goes up, which is its natural energetic current. Fire moves up, water moves down, heat moves up, coolness moves down. So the fire is moving up and going up, and the kidneys are cooling even more and stagnating with the coldness as they are depleted of their vital chi, which is the vital energy of the body. Eventually, if this cycle isn't encouraged to move healthily again, even the fire will cool down. So what does this look like? Well, when that fire is ramping up, it feels like stress, more anxiety. It feels like the fire comes up and it's repetitive thoughts, waking up in the night with thoughts that go over and over and over again. The brain fog, tinnitus in the ears are associated with the kidneys. When the fire is too hot and the kidney, it causes tinnitus in the ears. Light and sound sensitivity. So there's just this overall kind of overwhelm, which is a heart fire energetic, to be overwhelmed. And again, the kidneys are stagnating in their coldness, and that's that depressive energy that's pulling you down. And so we see this in just overall aging. As you go along, it looks more like that depressive energy, exhaustion, lack of the heart fire joy. As the heart fire just starts to become diminished, it's kind of getting bogged down by the water. There is pain along the kidney meridians, which are the energy channels of the body, which are also associated with the organs and the elements, which would be in the back, low back, the knees, the bottoms of the feet. You get dark circles under your eyes. The skin can look kind of thin and ashy. There's a craving for salt because salt is the flavor of the kidneys. So maybe then you start eating a lot of potato chips instead of eating good salt. That would be actually what your kidneys are asking for. Low libido, allergies, especially food allergies, because the digestion also starts to get bogged down in this situation, because the heart fire needs to come down and also help the digestive fire. And if that's not happening, then that coldness gets into the digestion and it also starts to shut things down, and you start seeing more food sensitivity. Digestive issues, and then also trouble with the deep breath, because also the lungs are being affected because they're starting to become more dry. And also hormonal imbalances. So this is then asking your thyroid to work harder and also be imbalanced, which is why a lot of people, when they come with these symptoms and they go to doctors, it's like, okay, well, let's look at all of these pieces. It's hormonal, it's menopausal, it's thyroid, it's depression, and it's adrenal. And so you start kind of throwing a bunch of medications and different things on top of this and trying to figure out how to soothe some of these symptoms, especially if they get extreme. So what do we do with this? Because one of the things about the kidneys is that they are the water element, and the water element is the slowest element. So one of the things to know is that this can take longer than other issues. So if you were dealing with another organ system and elemental system of the body, it might not take as long to ramp up your immune system and get things going good. But the kidneys are slow. And so it's going to take a little while for you to see the results of your efforts here. And just to know that this slow, steady, adding things in and taking things away is going to support you. So you have to understand that in the kidneys, we kind of have like two levels of vital energy storage. So there is the long-term Jing, the vital essence of the body that we're born with, that we have through our lives. When it's done, we're done. We pass. And then we have our kind of short-term vital energy storage. And every day you can use up a certain amount of that energy. But if you constantly and consistently are using up more than your allotted amount of energy for that day, then you're constantly pulling from the reserves. You're constantly pulling from your life force energy in order to maintain your life. So you can use that in the short term, but over the long term, it's not going to be healthy. So you have to look at this from the perspective of, I need to replenish my kidneys. I need to replenish the kidney energy. And so there's lots of things you can do. Make sure you have your pen out because I'm going to give you a lot of suggestions here. Number one, I really do suggest acupuncture. It is highly effective at balancing hormones and getting the energy to move properly again. And also, it's not a one and done, go to the doctor, get a pill, and go home. Make regular appointments and go and make a commitment to seeing an acupuncturist regularly. They might also be an herbalist and they can prescribe you specific herbs. If not, I'm going to give you some, but I also suggest there's a place called Dragon Herbs out of California, and they have acupuncturists and Chinese medical herbalists on staff that you can call and talk to and say, hey, these are the issues I'm having. Or I went to see my acupuncturist, and ask your acupuncturist for a diagnosis. So the diagnosis will tell you, oh, you need to support kidney yin. You need to support kidney yang. You need, they'll talk about liver and stomach and heart and so on. But you can, and heat and cold and stagnations, and you can take this little diagnostic that you might not quite understand yet, but you can take that and you can get herbs specifically for what's going on. But I'm going to give you a few here. So also really important is low intensity movements. And the best stuff that you can do is Tai Chi and Qigong. Once again, I'm pitching my program here, 5-Element Alchemy, because it is a really comprehensive Chinese energetic medicine, medical Qigong to deal with issues that you're having in your body and also to help process emotional stagnations and things from the past. So I'll put the link in here. And you might need to do more movement or less movement. I'm saying low intensity movement, but sometimes people get so fatigued that they're not moving at all, and that's not going to help the energy to move. You do want the energy to move, so you do have to move your body somewhat. Even though you're fatigued and you do need more rest and more sleep, don't think that that means that you can't move your body at all, because you'll see more benefit if you're doing low intensity movements, Tai Chi, Qigong, low intensity yoga, not hot yoga. Do not go to hot yoga right now. Do not go to super fast flow. No, go to yin yoga, to restorative yoga, to if it's, it's going to be a slow and gentle hatha yoga. Don't go to the super competitive yoga class right now. Meditation, sitting still. Okay, these things are really important. Some things that you should probably cut out or stop doing. The first one is fasting. Sometimes that can just be too hard on your body. It's creating too much stress. Your body can't understand what's going on. Eat in the morning. Fill your body up. Eat good food for you. And don't eat too late at night. Okay? Get rid of your high intensity workout. Even though you're worried about gaining weight, just stop with all the cardio right now. You can get great cardio from breath work, which will actually help you to relax the stress in your body. So deep breathing and breath work, taking walks is cardio and will support you more than really pushing your body past its limit right now. Maybe later when you recuperate, we can start adding it back in a bit more. Alcohol, just stop. It's really bad. Sugar and processed foods, not your friend right now. Anything that you consider inflammatory for you, and that might be wheat as well, which really converts itself to sugar. Those things your body is probably not going to want. Don't exercise right before bed, because you really are trying to get more sleep and deep rest. And also get rid of your coffee. Sorry. Better green tea, and even better than that, matcha. Matcha is really good for your cortisol levels. So let's talk about things that you do want to do. So maybe instead of wheat, oats are actually really good for you, because they have tryptophan, and then the carbohydrates help your body to absorb that. So don't see this as like an all carbs are bad sort of situation. And a lot of times completely cutting carbs cannot be the best thing for your body right now, because it does stress your body. Your vitamins, you want to make sure you're getting enough B vitamins for energy and so many functions in your body. C is going to support your immune system. E is going to support your skin, because your skin is not doing great when you've got adrenal fatigue. Your skin is going to be seeing it. And make sure you're getting enough protein. Also, things that help you regulate your cortisol. One that's really good it is simple to add in is sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes help to regulate your cortisol levels, and those are really easy to add into your diet. And then herbs that are great. Ashwagandha, very good for your cortisol levels. Rhodiola is actually seen as better sometimes than ashwagandha. I know I take ashwagandha every day. I love it as an herb. And you can do these as powders, as tinctures are going to give you an awareness of exactly how much you're getting. Pills. I like tinctures and I like powders because I like to make smoothies. Licorice, so you can have licorice tea, and licorice is a really good root for a lot of different things, and it helps to regulate blood pressure, but just know that sometimes it can have some interactions with some things, so just look that up. Tulsi, which is holy basil, which is a brilliant herb from India, which is an adaptogen, and is going to help your body with blood pressure and with helping to regulate things. So licorice and tulsi, these are both adaptogens. A lot of these herbs are adaptogens. So they're going into your body and they're helping do what you need. So they might be increasing or decreasing things as needed for your body right now. So these are really good things to add in. Ginkgo biloba is going to support your brain and any of those experiences of memory loss and brain fatigue. Maca is a great root, very hearty, and helps with your hormones and your energy levels. Make sure you're getting probiotics because, like I said, your digestive system can really be affected. Astragalus is a great root as well, and it is been used for the immune system, but what they have found is it actually is really good also for the adrenals and for cortisol. Schizandra berry, which is one of those berries and foods that in Chinese medicine is seen as like a, I don't know, kind of a primary cure-all in a lot of ways, because it's seen as having the 5 flavors, which means it has the 5 elements, which means it's going to support everything in your body. And this is a great berry for women, for women's bodies, for your health and vitality in every aspect. And so you can get that as dried berries and make it into a tea. It's similar to in taste to goji berries. And goji berries are great too. So there's another one called Eleuthero, and I wanted to spell it for you because it just might not seem right, but Eleuthero. And this is great for insomnia and also a lack of strength that happens due to lower estrogen levels as menopause is occurring. And then Panax ginseng, which is a specific kind of ginseng, is also seen to be really supportive because it's helping you with stress levels and with energy levels. And then you might as well add some ginger to that and have some nice ginger tea every night before bed. So that is so many things. If you added just a few of those things, you might see a great effect. The encouragement is that you add something and give it some time to work and see what the effectiveness is. And that's going to give you more information about what's going on in your body. Of course, if you're seeing a hormone specialist or a naturopath or some kind of functional medicine doctor or even a Western doctor, you might be taking things that already have this stuff in them. So just make sure that you're reading things and talking to your practitioners and your providers about what you're taking, maybe what you're not getting. But I wanted you to have all of this list so that you know, oh, okay, so maybe I really do need to cut out the coffee and drink some matcha or drink some rooibos tea, which is also really good for your cortisol levels. So back to the water element and the kidneys. So like I said, the flavor of the water element is salty and the color is black, deep, dark colors. So you can even think of almost like a dark purpley color, like an eggplant. Eggplants are great, like black beans, seaweed, kelps, black sesame seeds, which you can buy a black tahini. Usually you have to get it online. I don't find it in stores very often, but it's really good. And if you want to make some good meals with tahini and hummus and so on, get the black tahini because that's going to really support your kidneys. Fatty fish and also the tiny little fish, sardines and anchovies are really good. You can see why sometimes these aren't the things that we're eating. Organ meats, these very dense foods, dark, deep, colored foods. Bone broth, please make bone broth. If you can't make bone broth, go buy bone broth. If you've been a vegetarian or a vegan and you're really struggling, consider bone broth. I know that it might be challenging, but please consider it. Even if you're making your own fish broth or chicken broth. This is one of the most important things that can really help you, because there's so many minerals, there's these great fats, and your body is able to take it in really easily. Also, just like anything else dark. So we're looking at black and dark mushrooms and dark vegetables. So the darker, the better. The more green it is, the more purple it is, the more like deep, dark color that it is in general, eat that. Focus on that. And then also the energy of the kidneys and helping the water element really is the energy of the winter time. And in the winter time, we stop. We stop doing and we relax into ourselves. And we are still. So stillness meditation, laying on your back and being in silence. And if you have to put on noise canceling earphones, do that. Silence as much as possible. Darkness. Covering your eyes at night, or if you're going to take a nap, cover your eyes from the light. And you want to give yourself as much darkness as possible. Not using your phone at night is really helpful. And doing things like float tanks, or if you can get into a river or a stream or the ocean, especially because it's salty, floating in the water and being in the water and cultivating the water. And of course, if you're doing things like Qigong, you'll have water-specific practices that are inviting the water into your life. And in this, looking at the water element, it's also helpful to look at what is your relationship to the water element, just as you are going to have to look at your relationship to nurturing yourself and rest and replenishment. Also, your relationship to the water element and to this season of the winter, which is about stillness and quietness, introspection, and taking care of yourself deeply. And to water, honoring water, being grateful for water, seeing how much water is a part of you and part of your life, and appreciating water. So this has been a huge video. But I hope that it's helpful so that you can see that there are some things and some pieces that you can bring together that are going to support you in really nurturing your body and taking care of yourself. And know that anything that is stressing you out, anything that's pushing you past your limit, now is the time to look at that. Where are you taking on too much responsibility? Where are you saying yes when you should say no? Where are you acting like the superhero when you need to take a nap? And I hope that this has been helpful, and I would love to hear about anything that you feel like you might be integrating and exploring throughout this teaching. And if you need any more help or support, please feel free to reach out.